Hello, everybody. I'm here today with Susan Jaffe, and I just throw the ball right to you, Susan. Please, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I am Susan Jaffe, the artistic director of American Ballet Theater. And I was a principal dancer with the company for 22 years. And I also danced all around the world. And I actually was away from the company for 10 years, 12 years actually. Um, and I I opened a dance school in Princeton. I was the dean of dance at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. I was the artistic director of Pittsburgh Ballet Theater, and then I finally landed back home in 2022 as the artistic director of American Ballet Theater. And that's my story. And I'm going to throw the ball over to Matthew to introduce himself.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Matthew Squire. I originally come from England, but I've lived a long time now in Germany, where after my training in London, I came to Germany to work in different theatres, and then I trained as a physiotherapist. And since then, I've been working, first of all, with non-dancers, and then, as Susan said, coming back home, felt like that. I was invited to work in a dance university here at Paluca in Dresden. And since then, I've been leading the health team and engaging with these IDA group. So then we'll go straight to the first question, Susan. Yeah.
Yes.
From your perspective, and that has multiple different possibilities, but your perspectives, how do you look at flexibility in dance?
Yes. Well, as with everything in life, it's a balance. Of course, you need enough flexibility to be able to do the actual steps of ballet. For example, an arabesque or back bend or an alice or a grand jeté, for example. Um, and also because the flexibility helps you to execute the steps more easily. Like if you're really pushing against a constrained inflexibility in one area or the other, you are more prone to not actually being able to execute the step cleanly and beautifully, but also more prone to injury. So conversely, if you are overly flexible and you have too much flexibility and not enough strength to balance that flexibility, you will also not be able to do or execute the steps in a clean and strong way. So it is a balance, and every body is different. Um, some people need to do more stretching. Some people need to do less stretching. And also, I believe the time of day is important for if you want to do deeper stretching. Otherwise, just light stretching during your bar or things like that. And I always recommend, particularly, well, actually, to all students and professionals, if you are too flexible, I would recommend not stretching at all or very minimal stretching. So it's a balance.
Thank you. So you already sort of touched on this as well. I was going to say the next question is more always better? But I think you referred there at the end that definitely isn't. Can you give an example of that?
Well, I have seen a lot of flexible people in my life, and the ones that are we have an example of Sylvie Guillem. She was very flexible, but also very strong, and she had practiced gymnastics before she went into ballet. So there was a lot of inner strength, just physically in the body. But I have seen people that are so flexible that it is hard for them to have the support of the muscles, to support the joints, to support the steps, to support the entire body. And so I also, in that instance, I would recommend Pilates, for example, even more than gyrotonics. So if somebody needs more flexibility in their positioning, I would recommend to a student take gyrotonics or even a professional. But if they need more strength and they have too much flexibility, I would recommend Pilates, because Pilates is more linear, it's more up and down and side to side. Gyrotonics is more rounded. But it's, even if you're like super flexible, um, that's going to take a lot of will to gain the strength to support your muscles and your technique.
Mhm. I can hear a very strong emphasis here on a balance between the strength, the control, the stabilization, and on the other side, the freedom of range of movement and an ability to perform movements right to the extent that a choreographer might expect of them. All right? Good.
Yes.
Thank you for that. We often see people in dance having the idea that it might be better, right, from an aesthetic point of view, who have naturally a mega foot or a hyperextended knee. Often those two go together. Yeah. So you mentioned Sylvie Guillem. Her lines are, I would say, predominantly formed by that shape of leg, right, which often many people desire. Not everybody has it. I know that you have a very beautiful line of leg and foot as well. Did you have experienced any problems with that as a student?
Um, that's a great question. I actually worked when I got older, when I was in the company already, and I suffered tendonitis of the patella tendon in my knee.
Mhm.
And I met a teacher who forced me in first position to put my heels together. And what it was a real struggle in the beginning.
Mm.
Um, and she was sort of a rehabilitative kind of teacher. So she had us in first position for like an hour doing a whole bar. And I was in the best shape ever. It was amazing how you can actually get in fantastic shape from first position. Um, but what I recognized was that I had to work extra hard to get pulled up in the inside line
Mhm.
of what I call the inseams of my leg, and in order not to sink into my knees. And so what I found after struggling for a few months was that I actually had a lot more stability when I was deeply pulled up on my inseam. And so, for example, when I teach, when I say I do a tendu, I ask dancers to push through the floor and lengthen their inseam. But when you come in, of course, you use the floor again, but then you have to pull deeply up on your inseam and your hips and your turnout and your core to get your feet together, right?
Right.
And so, for me personally, that created tremendous stability in relation to sinking back into the hyperextension, which I was not as hyperextended as Sylvie Guillem, but did have a little bit of hyperextension.
Yeah. And did the pain go, the patella tendon pain that you'd started off with, did that just evaporate?
Um, it took a while. It took a
Yeah.
while. That it took about 3 years for the patella tendonitis to go away. But I performed all the way through. I even did an hour bar in first position and then danced Don Q, or the Sleeping Beauty, that night. So I just worked through it.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, it was just one of those things.
Good. And have you made experiences with the same question, yeah, these hyperextended knees and mega feet, with dancers in your company? Do you see the same things happening again for them?
100%. Yeah.
Mm.
And I will say, try to get deeply up into your inseams. And also, like, for example, if somebody is too hyperextended, doing an entrechecot or an entrechassis is far more challenging than doing
Mhm.
for somebody who has more straight legs, right? So the hyperextension can impede the ability to execute the steps properly, particularly in batu.
Right. And then we'll come back to that original point we made between the balance between the one and the other, right? Not too little of something, but not too much of something either.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. So let's move on to the difference between the student world and the professional world. How do you think that if you asked a group of everyday students, they would rate flexibility? Yeah. And how do you think the
Mm.
same cohort of people in the professional world would answer that question?
I would say students would rate flexibility higher than professionals. But of
Yeah.
course, it depends upon who you ask. If you're asking a lot of professionals with hypermobility, they're going to rate flexibility lower than somebody who needs more flexibility as a
Yeah.
professional.
Good. But let's just define that a little bit better, right? When we say flexibility, we're talking about range of movements of the big joints, right? About the ankle joint, the hip joint, yeah, the back, especially these joints, which one can work on to a certain extent, but there are certain genetic limitations. Yeah, we're not talking about the hypermobility syndromes where people have a genetic, systematic,
I
let's
see.
say. Uh, that's right. We're talking about like how the the range of movement increases up to a certain point, but staying within a healthy, safe limit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering whether that that is not quite clear to all students that push for flexibility because they rate it higher, they're not quite aware of the limitations of where it would be to stop. But it might be that it comes later that that professional world says, yeah, but I'm really lacking in the strength and stability. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
And the other thing about students are that they are more connected to, and this does not, I do not mean to be disparaging towards young people, but they're more connected to the wow factor. Wow, her leg is so high.
mm,
Wow, that arabesque is so, deep. Wow, it's that because you see that, for example, in the competitions. And that's what students more focus on because when you get older and you're in a company and you're asked to do this style and this style and that style and this dramatic role and that interpretation of that dramatic role, and you are become a much more well-rounded artist, the wow factor is not a thing. What is important as a professional is your artistry and your ability to tell a story beyond the music, convey emotion, and all of those things. So the flexibility becomes less important when you have all of those other factors that you're working with as an artist, as an older dancer.
yeah. So as somebody now is artistic director of a renowned, sorry, I can't say that in English, of a renowned theatre, yeah, and company, do you look then for the artist in people, or are you looking also for wows to see the people first and then give them a chance to become an artist?
Well, we are very fortunate at American Ballet Theater. We have a studio, we have a very strong school, and we have a studio company, which
Hmm.
has 12 dancers in it. They're pre-professionals. It's their finishing school, so it's their last 2 years of training, and they work with a very, very talented staff who really knows how to work with that age group. Sasha Radetsky is the artistic director, and he has an incredible team around him. So by the time they come into the company, they have had a lot of experience with choreography, with classical work, with contemporary ballet. They're very strong. They're trained musically. They're trained theatrically. So I don't look for a wow factor. I look for a well-rounded, well-trained, and also stable, mentally stable dancer, because the dancers, it's a very, very hard life. And it's got a lot of emotional ups and downs. Everybody wants to be a principal dancer. And some are going to make it to principal, and some are not going to make it to principal. And you have to be so strong, right, to weather all of the storms of the ups and downs. I mean, even the principals. So also when somebody's mentally strong or mentally stable, their dancing is more stable. Their presentation is more stable. Their muscles and their strength are more stable. So I also look for that, and so does Mr. Radetsky, because you have to have not only the physical chops and the experience of classical and contemporary, but the mental chops to be a dancer at this level.
Yeah, and that's something I've noticed too in my experience working with dancers, both as a dancer myself and then as a therapist. It's something which, of course, is not taught in class. You don't have a class of normally. Being resilient, I mean, it's creeping in, I guess, now into mental health programs, but it's not on the program as present as classical class or a conditioning class or something in this physical sense, right? Nevertheless, I hear this so important for you as the artistic director. That's what you're looking for in your dancers and need for them to have a successful career. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good. Okay. So do you think, right, quite coming towards the end, do you think you could finalize some of those thoughts into little bite-sized advice for the students listening?
Yes. I would definitely advise making sure that your life is well-rounded, that you are, I know everybody in school has a lot of schoolwork and all of those things, but also when you are in playtime, that you are doing things that are outside of ballet. Even if you're going to a museum or a concert or walking in the park or,
Mhm.
swimming or anything that is outside of dance. Because the well-roundedness of a human not only brings deeper artistry, but builds resilience, supports resilience. I would also say that uh, I would read books on famous dancers, famous athletes, the mindset. There's lots of books on mindset and trying to emulate those types of people that you admire or that you feel inspired by, because we oftentimes, especially as young people, we are so hard on ourselves. And we also, the culture, particularly in ballet, I don't know about in contemporary dance, but in ballet, the culture is, if you keep saying, oh, no, no, I'm not good, I'm not, oh, I'm bad, oh, that was so terrible, then somehow you feel more accepted by everybody. Somehow, even if you're super talented, it's, to be very self effacing, which I find to be not the healthiest way to go about living in the world. I think that it's important to have a healthy sense of humility, but that also requires celebrating your wins and celebrating your strengths, right? Again, it's a
Yeah.
balance, right? It's a balance. And, false humility is just as bad as tremendous egotistic, again, it's that middle way. Um, but finding, like, if you find yourself as a student just in a negative mental loop, because we all get into these negative mental loops. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, that pirouette. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. Stop saying all of that.
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop it.
Mm.
Start talking about things you can do. And if you feel like you can't do it yet, act as if you can. Act as if you're already
Nice.
one stage further or two or three stages further than you are
Mhm.
today. Because when we have aspirations and goals and we aim with positivity, with love, with passion, we will get there. There's a famous saying, which is everything you think you can or cannot do, you're right. Right. So it's like
Nice. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you say, "Oh, I can't do this," you can just as easily say, "I can do that," or "I will do that," or "I know I'm going to be able to do that." Um, and just focus on those things. Don't focus on things that are uh, draining to your soul and your spirit. Think of and nourish your mind with life affirming thoughts and emotions.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a fantastic piece of advice, and I hope students listening are inspired by that and will take it with them. Susan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for
Thank
being
you
here
so
as
much.
a special guest for the ITA group. And I wish you all the best and opening night tonight. Toi, 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 we
Thank
would
you.
say in
Thank you so
Germany.
much. And
Okay.
good luck, everybody. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.